Hey again, Maziar here. So this is the second part to my 3-part Nuke crash course tutorial, and basically you're here right now. Let's begin. So let's just start with a simple merge. So I'm gonna just put this into like input 1 and this input 2. I wanna merge these two. What I'm gonna do is that, so basically these are not connected. So these are, it looks like it, in a way, it feels like they're like in two different comps, in comp 1 and comp 2. They're not still like combined. To do that, it's there's a node called merge. So I can go to this tab, and as you can see, I have merge here. But there is another way. So this does have hotkey, which is M. But there's another way to just look for nodes, because sometimes they don't have hotkeys. You can set hotkeys with like a script, but some of them don't have hotkeys, and you just wanted to search the names. You don't want to just put all the keyboards like assigned to those specific nodes. So to do that is just press tab, and I'll just type in merge and just hit OK. And now I have a merge. So again, as you can see, this is from top to bottom. So I have 2 inputs and 1 output. So basically it's going to just merge them together. And the way it works is like just B input is for background and A is foreground. You can later on just change the operation and it behaves differently. If you just put it into under, it's going to be the opposite. But by default, B, you can just easily remember, is background and A is foreground. And B basically is the one that's going to get the format. If they have like different formats, it's going to just set your output into the background format. And if this is like a different format, it's going to just pick it up as it's going to just comp it on top of this. And this is your base format. By format, I mean the resolution and the aspect ratio. So then I'm going to just put this, and then I'm going to just look at it. 1, and voila. Here we have our comp. That was easy, right? So let's just look at the parameters of this merge node and see what else we can do with a merge node. So almost like you can just set like different channels. We'll talk about channels in Grade, but you can just set like what channels you want to just merge, and even the output, what channels you want to have output. You can just maybe set like, I don't want to output the alpha channel. And as you can see, whatever I'm doing here, if I'm look at it, it shows me like the channels is going to be exported from this. If I just uncheck this, and it's going to just be gone. Like there's no, it's not going to affect, this merge is not affecting the alpha channel. It's going to just get it from the background. So the only thing that's really important for you to know about like the merge is the operations up here. So if I just hover over this, it's going to show up all the different like operations it can do and what's the math behind them. So as you can see, for instance, the over is like A plus B multiplied with 1 minus A like lowercase. So A uppercase and B uppercase are these 2 inputs, and the A and B lowercase, they're actually the alpha channel for those 2 inputs. And this is the operation for over. So it kind of, as you can see, it's kind of first it just 1 minus the alpha channel from A, and then it multiplied with B, and then it's going to just add it to A. So this is actually, this is pretty cool, because you can just even see how screen works, or how plus and multiply. It's pretty straightforward, like plus multiply. But for instance, screen, how does that work? In a way, it's like it kind of explains how it works even in other applications, like the screen. How does that work? Overlay, how does that work? It's pretty cool, and you can just learn a lot just by looking at these different operations. And basically we have like different blending modes with this merge node, with just changing the operations. It's pretty cool. So this is basically it. This is for the merge node. And if you want to just have like different blending mode, let's just do like an overlay like this. It looks ugly. Maybe do like multiplied, or I don't know, like that, because this is like black, right? Multiplying but black. Anyway, so this is you can just play around with these and just see how that works. And that's for merge. Let's just jump into the concept of grading and like pre-multing. So this time, if I want to just merge these 2, what I'm going to do is like first select this node and then select this. Just press M. It's going to just put this node on top of this node. One thing I would suggest is that from now on, just try to when you're just merging or just comping, try to have like a main spine, and that's going to be your B side, which is your background. And maybe you can just try to have your inputs from left, and just have like different like layers, right? I'll have like something like this, and just comp it like this, because we have like masks are right here. These are not rules. These are like just being organized. So if some other compers would just pick up your scripts, it's not going to be a maze. I mean, just try to be organized, and again, have like a main spine, and just adding stuff on top. Now, what I'm going to do here is that I'm looking at this. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to just try to add a grade. Like just add a color corrections or grade, doesn't matter. So either I can just search for grade, or the hotkey for it is G. And here I'm gonna go and try to just grade it. And as you can see, whatever node you're creating, it's gonna show up its parameters up here. So I can just play around with the white points. You see, I can just play around with gain, or maybe multiply, and yeah, I mean offset or gamma. Gamma is basically the midtones. Gain is the whites, the highlights, and these two are like with these two are like kind of connected. These are the starting point for black points, white points, and again lift the black points. And if I just hover over it, it should say like black or something. Yeah, and then it's gonna just again work with the gain or the white points, and then multiply, offset, and offset is moving everything, and gamma is like midtones. But anyway, this is not a course for color grading. So now if I look at it, it's kind of, it looks okay, it looks fine, it doesn't look anything's wrong. But for instance, if I just play around with black points, you see it's kind of affecting the background. This is weird. Why this is happening? So the reason is the concept of Premult. So the way it works is that whatever CG render you get, or anything that has an alpha channel, for instance, I'm going to read in like a file that I downloaded as a demo. So in case you don't have any files that has like an alpha channel, you can just easily search for something like animal PNG, I guess. That's what I did and found this. So for instance, this one as well. This one, it's a good example of like how Premult works. This is a file that has alpha channel, but it doesn't look like it. Why it looks like this? Because it's not pre-multed yet. So before I'm explaining what the pre-mult is, let's just take a look at different channels here. So up here you have like different layers. We'll talk about different layers when we're talking about shuffling in 3D topic. But this is the fourth channel. I mean, if you have like an alpha channel, which one do you want it to be? Like the fourth channel, obviously it's the alpha channel usually. And this is how you want to view them up here. And this is the color space. I'll talk a little bit about color space, but it's a huge topic anyway. But I mean, in short, it's like a LUT. It's like a lookup table in a way. So you don't need to worry about this. In After Effects is sRGB. Usually we work with Rec 709 here, but I mean, again, that's another topic. But if I just go here, I can just look at different channels like R, G, B, A, and luminance. And matte, we'll talk about it in Roto. So the hotkeys for it is like RGB, as you can see up to the right. So make sure you're hovering over the viewport. If I do R here, it's going to do a read node. But if I do R here, it's going to show me the red channel. If I G, green channel, B, blue channel. If you wanted to switch back to RGB, just press that channel twice. So B, B, G, G, R, R. And if I just hit A, I see, oh wow, this is the alpha channel I want. So why this is showing this weird like these pixels like being spreaded and just this white background? Because this is not pre-multed. This is a file that's pre-multed, and it's actually pre-multiplied, and it means that it's gonna multiply the alpha channel with the RGB, and it's going to show those pixels. So if I just do, so there's the nodes, they have like by default a checkbox for pre-multiplying. And if I just zoom in, and especially on the edges, if I just do this, as you can see, I mean, this is not a grade, like it's like a file that I downloaded from internet, so it's like a PNG. So this is not a great quality, but I mean, this is what you get from CG. So this is perfect. I wanted to just show you how you can just see the pre-mult process. So this is pre-multiplied, but the problem is that when you grade something, again, I'm not going to go deep, but when you grade or like add color corrections, whatever, the problem with that is that it's kind of when you're just moving around with pixels, two things happens. One is like on the black points, on the black areas, it's kind of, if you're just playing with the like sliders that they have an effect on the those points, it doesn't matter. For instance, this is 0. Everything else, mostly they're looking at the information. But for instance, black point or even the offset, it's gonna have an effect on these. And by the way, we have minus values as well, but usually these are like clamped. If I just remove this clamp, and as you can see down here, I can see minus values. So, and if you wanted to just know how this works, is like just whatever you're hovering, it's going to show the information, RGBA, like hue, saturation values, and you can just lock as well. And I'm going to show you how to lock them and just sample stuff when I'm doing the keying. But anyway, so this is one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen is that, okay, you're not using black points or you're not using the offset, but I'm gonna add like a little bit of contrast. Let's do this, right? So now you see these edges. These are another issue that could happen to your file if you work on a pre-mult files. So basically this topic we are talking about is that whenever you're doing grades or color corrections or whatever, make sure you unpremult your file, then premult it again for files that have alpha channel. And by the way, one thing, if you don't have an alpha channel and you're using an operation that has it needs the alpha channel, for instance, I just put a shuffle here and I just put like black here, it's going to use the red channel. Red is here, right? It's going to use the red channel as the alpha channel. So I'm just saying, like, just in case you're just putting over something and it shows a weird thing, it's because it doesn't have an alpha channel. So I just put it back. So here I need to I get back to the premult. So I need to premult unpremult it, and that's why usually people get confused, because we have like two prefixes. It's like unpremult. So basically it means kind of dividing it again, like giving it back, like just multiplying with it. We wanted to just divide it, just go one step back. So unpremult, that's why it's a little bit confusing. So to do that, there are two ways to do that. Either you can just go to that specific node and we have like an unpremult here, and I'm going to just apply it like with the alpha channel, like divide it, and boom, we fixed those edges, and that's it. That's basically the concept of premulting. And another way is that, for instance, if you have like multiple nodes here and it's like and color corrections is kind of the same, not the same, it's like just usually we use grade for black and white points, and usually we use color corrections because we have like saturation and contrast parameters here as well, in addition to different sections like midtones, highlights, and shadows. And you can just set the range as well with a test here. And this is like a fuzzy logic as well. I mean, you can just say like, it's not like constant, like just this is my highlight, this is my shadow. But if you have like multiple nodes, there's another way, easier way. You don't have to just go to each node and just say unpremult. I'll just type in tab unpremult, and it's in the merge section, as you can see, and it's going to just unpremult it, and then I'm going to just add a premult. This is another node. This is the same as like a premult, and it's going to just fix it. But make sure you don't do that twice. For instance, I do this. For instance, I go back. You see, this is like just I'm premulting it, I'm premulting it, I'm premulting it, I'm premulting it, or like this. It's I'm premulting it and premulting it twice. Again, I'm just saying to make sure you don't just do it twice, because again, it's going to just introduce some like edge issues or something, like messing up your background pixels, whatever. So that's it. That's like the concept of like if you wanted to just use different types of grading, color corrections, and just the concept of premult. The next topic is filters and time. This is going to be quick because I just want to just cover all the tabs here, mostly all the tabs. Not like I'm not going to go into deep compositing or particle systems for sure. Again, I'm going to just select this and this, put merge, and then I'm gonna just apply some effects here, so I'm gonna quickly introduce you to some of the like options up here as well, because we already know about these. Now let's just talk about these. What I'm gonna do is that I just add like you can just either like to defocus the background, you can use the blur, which is a little bit like, it's not correct because it's like a Gaussian blur. I mean, it's not correct if you wanted to have like a really defocus, like a camera defocus. There's like a Z defocus or defocus. I'm going to just use defocus for now. But I mean, the more advanced tools, they're going to give you the opportunity to just set the iris, because usually the way they defocus pixels is going to just based on the shape of the iris. So I'm going to just do this, for instance, and yeah, that's cool. That's right. That's nice. So this is how you can just apply filters, or for instance, I want to just apply like a retime here. I want to just do maybe like a half a speed. And as you remember, I told you like the hotkeys for like playing back and forward is like JKL. You need to select here again. How just remember when you just say like, for instance, J or KL here, nothing happens. Like you see K is copy, for instance, copy node. And this is how it shows its caching. I can go backward, I can go forward. And as you can see, it's kind of steppy because it's just picking up the nearest frames, I think. Or it's actually box. You can just put nearest, but it's not that great. We have like time warp a little bit better, or Chronos. Chronos is awesome. But I mean, it's heavy. I'm not going to show it to you right now. But yeah, you can just easily just check your effects and just play around. And there are like other ways. You can just set your resolution to half if it's heavy. You can just pause. This is like backspace in After Effects. You can just select the region of interest in After Effects term. This is refresh. This is pretty cool. If you're cache here, how you can clear cache here is like that. I'll just go like crazy like that. And if I zoom out, you see it takes some time to refresh. Now I clear my cache and I hit this button. And if I change this and I zoom out, as you see, it's applied to everywhere. It's pretty cool. I mean, if you want to, you don't want it to be like specified to the amount of zoom you're doing, you can just press this and just work your way. But it's going to get really heavy if you click this. Just be mindful of using that. This is like proxy. If you have proxy on, and this is like your warnings, exposure warnings, and these are like scopes and like title saves and action save. Then we have like the this part, which is like like if you want to compare two parts of your script, like for instance before and after, and you can just hit W, and it's going to just check your A and B and put these. You can just change them if you want, and you have like different ways of looking at them. But in general, I mean, I can just use like wipe for now. And as you can see, I have this gizmo. I can go left and right, and as you can see, I have both information from A and B. I can rotate this. I can just change the opacity, and this is pretty cool. If you want to just compare like even two same exports, like if you match color or whatever. And so the last thing is that these two sliders here, these are good for like if you wanted to grade or something. This is like, in a way, it's like gain, and this is gamma. This is for like it goes like with it plays with the with the curve at the top part, and it says basically f-stop, but I would just say it's like a gain. And this is a gamma if you want to just check the colors and stuff like that. This is, for instance, if I wanted to see if I have any information up here, I'll just increase this and I can see some information in these dark spots, or maybe somewhere else, maybe here. So these are the tools that you can use if you wanted to just compare, or if you want to just check your information, if you're just clipping, or you're just having some information in, or for instance here, I wanted to see if I have some information in this highlight. Okay. So that's it. That's for like filters, or if you want to just use the time tools. And we're going to just jump into transform. Yes, as mentioned before, anything you wanted to do here, it's a node. So even if you wanted to do a transform, to do that, it's called transform node, and the hotkey is T. If I just hit T, this, as you can see, this gizmo, this node has a gizmo. later on you'll see the tracker does have its own stuff, or roto does have its own like parameters. So whatever node you're selecting, if you, the other thing about like having like multiple multiple nodes selected is that, for instance, if I just change this and I just make a new transfer node, it's going to be active here, so it's going to show its gizmo. So it's a little bit, you get overwhelmed. So I go back here and I'll double click on this, and so basically this is your pivot point. You can just either you can just move it around, or you can just control click and just move your pivot point. As you can see, the center changes, and you can just change the values up here. I'm not going to go with rotation, but I can just scale it up and down. But some best way, like some of the great ways of like changing values is like with the cursor up, down, and left and right. If I just go to the left of a number and go up, it increases that number. But if I go right and go up, it adds a decimal. Go right, up, down. So basically, with just cursors, go left and right and up and down, you can just easily go like crazy amount or like really subtle changes. This is awesome. I mean, I wish all the applications had the same hotkeys. And yeah, that's it. The only thing about transforming that you need to be aware of is that the concept of concatenate, which is if you have like multiple nodes, for instance, if I have 2, 3, or because sometimes you have like one transform to set something, and one to animate something, one to track something, like you have like an information from a tracker, but make sure you're not breaking it. What I mean by that is that, for instance, if I just scale it down, you know it's going to apply some filters into it, right? And then I'm going to just scale it up. Actually, what I'm going to do is that do this, and what I'm going to do, even go crazy. And then I'm going to just copy paste this and just go invert. So basically there's no change from here to here, 1 2 1 2. But so this is like applying the filter, and it's kind of checking, and it's going to just apply the filter based on the last node in a row. But as soon as I break it, you see what happens? Yeah, this is ugly. It's because it's this part, these transfer nodes are separated, and it's going to just apply the filter, just scale it down, and then do something else, and then scale this up. So make sure when you're like using transform, some of the nodes, if you go to the documentations in Nuke, in the Foundry, you'll see some of the nodes, they follow this rule of concatenate. So make sure you have those in a row, those type of nodes. This is really important. So this is the transform. The last topic of this kind of general tools is the obviously to how to keyframe. Again, I'm going to just do this. And I'm going to just, again, put like a transform. I'm going to just show you how to keyframe here with transform. It's pretty easy. It's just, I'll just go to the first frame. I just right click, for instance, at scale, set key. And the principles of like animating keyframing is that you turn on the stopwatch. You remember from After Effects, go to a new, what is it? I put O as an output for this. These are like the hotkeys down here as well. So JKL and O and in. And then you change the value. For instance, I'm going to go crazy, like 3. And now it's if I just hit play or press L, it's going to do the betweens or tweening or whatever you want to call it. It's, yeah, that's it. I mean, this is how you can just add keyframes. And because this you are already added a keyframe, if I add a new keyframe in the middle, it's going to just add a new keyframe. If I change the location, it's not set up, like it's not going to just add keyframe. Make sure you set something like a set key, and then just try to change it over time. But you wanted to see, okay, I want to look at all the keyframes. I have like multiple keyframes in multiple parameters. How is it possible for me to just see them all like all together? It's possible. Don't worry. It's not like this is everything's node graph. Everything's like happening here. We have a part called dope sheet, and here you can just see all the parameters and all the keyframes, and you can just play around with them. Then you're gonna say, I want to just to change the behavior of each keys. How can you do that? It's easy. Curve editor. And if you're here, if I have like different, like one is like different scales, it might look a little bit weird. So if you're lost here, you can just easily hit F, and it's going to just fit all your keys in your graph. And you can just play around. For instance, I can just set this. Either you can just right click and go and check like whatever preset you wanted to use, or you can just change the slope here. I can just say H, and it's going to just add this S curve. And you can just change. It's like there are like so many options. Just go check them out. You can just add filters into your if you have like a really bad track, like a noisy track, or you can just add like a what is it, after like constant linear. It's like there are like so many options you can here like play with them. And yeah, this is how you can just play around with these like dope sheet and curve editor. But something else that you really usually do when you're just in After Effects, you want to just like apply motion blur, right? This is easy. It's in transform. I can just set motion blur, and it's going to just add the motion blur if you for that. And based on the shutter speed, which is like 180, this is equivalent to that. But you can just increase and decrease that as well if you want. And so this is the way you can just this is the way you can just add keyframes. But if you wanted to, if you're a little bit lazy, you want to just do some expressions, that's possible too. For instance, I add like another transform node, and sometimes it's good to name them. For instance, this is like a expression. Either you can do this, or you can just go to the what is it, the label, and then I can just put it back into form maybe, but it's expression. But what I can do is that instead of just adding keyframe, I right click. I can either right click here, or I either right click on both, and just go to edit expression. The hotkey for it is equal. So I can select this and press equal and just change it. Let me just add for this scale. And you can just separate the scale here as well, by the way. I press equal, and just say like a random, I don't know, a random generator, and maybe, I don't know, do something like that, and -3, and maybe like add like an absolute. So everything's like not negative, everything's positive. And so is it like, this is like really a really bad example, but I guess this works. Or maybe I can just go even, I can just actually go, I don't know, maybe not that crazy. So this is how you can just apply expressions. And even if you wanted to just go crazier, you can go with Python scripting. And I'm going to show you like a really quick example if you wanted to change, like, because by default, if you import these nodes, these DPX nodes, the color space are wrong, right? I mean, if you just have like a fresh install of Nuke, so these are wrong. And after you're importing them, you realize, oh my god, I need to change them, and you have like 5, 6, 7 of these files. You don't want to just go and like click and just change the color space. One of the best ways, like with scripting, and I can just select, for instance, these 3 nodes. I go to script editor and just say, for instance, I make a for loop in Python. So I would say for node, or whatever, I can just say node in nuke.selected nodes. So the node parameters, what's the parameter? I think it's color space. I'll just hover over it. What is it? Color space. Yep. I'll just go here. Just say color space and set value. Rec 709. And if I select it and control enter, it gives me an error because I spelled it wrong, value. And now I'm not selecting these 3. I need to select them. So this, and this. These are highlighted, and then run this. And here we go. I mean, when you're doing so many repeatable tasks, this is great. I mean, if you wanted to use Python. But so basically this is it. I mean, you can just either use, and you can use Python in expressions as well. I mean, if I just go here, press equal, you can just change it into multiple lines and Python, and R is actually return. And actually you can just say, like, for instance, return 1. You can just have like a really crazy script here, just write it down in this expressions and just run it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you can just keyframe or add expressions or just use Python scripts. And this covers all of the general tools we have. Now we want to jump into more advanced tools which are used in visual effects.